Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Freelancers Tea Break. And this week I'm not on my own. I'm actually joined by my social media buddy, Olivia Bushnell, and she's here to talk about social media and how we can use it as a freelancer. Now, I've known Olivia a little while now. I actually got to know her through Leah Rice's group. Leah is a good friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours who has a social media planner, and we both use that, and we got to know each other through that. And Olivia's been in my membership for a little while now, and has kindly contributed some brilliant resources for the membership, with lots of bits about how to use social media, some top tips, some posting ideas. There's so much great content in there. How to schedule your social media. She's done a great video tutorial on that. So I really want to get Olivia over on the podcast because she's got some great tips for how to use social media as a freelancer in a really kind of accessible and not overwhelming way. So first of all, Olivia, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Hi, yeah, I'm Olivia, and I focus on small business, so freelancers, obviously. But a lot of my clients are, small businesses and heart-centered businesses, and they haven't got a lot of time outside of, running their own business. And I basically help them grow their whole business through social media so they can reach more people. And I also focus on organic reach rather than paid ads, because if you're a small business, finding the cash for ads can be difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And there's all these courses around about how you can, get people through ads and get sign-ups for 50p, and that actually stacks up to a lot when you're freelance.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Get into being freelance.
I actually came to being freelance because of my mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
I still am really unable to work sort of a traditional job. So I thought, well, what am I good at? And how can I sort of make that work? So I decided to go freelance as a social media manager. And initially I was doing social media management and website design. And then I finally decided, no, look, I hate doing websites. So I'm just going to focus on social media and just niche down and be like, no, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I love. And the rest, as they say, is history, really.
The mental health thing. So whenever I ask in my group why people are freelance, it's not to make, hundreds of thousands of pounds. That's obviously great if you can, but more often than not, it's flexibility around mental health, physical health. We've got a lot of people with chronic health conditions like endometriosis and all sorts of things that don't really allow you to have a traditional career, but freelance allows you that flexibility. And I think having that to work around your mental health, and mental health is something that so many of us face now. Yeah, it's so important, and it just allows us to flourish in a career rather than having to feel awful in a traditional 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly. Because as much as I sort of can't commit, I can't say like I'm going to be there 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I can't do it. So I tend to, like, at the minute I'm working essentially 11ish until say 10 at night. But obviously I only have set hours for clients to contact me, so they can only really get in touch between 10 and 6ish. But I can actually do the work when I've got the capacity to do the work, because as long as it gets done, it doesn't really matter when, which is great.
And you do so much work as well. And actually 9 to 5 is really outdated and not really realistic to be able to keep going for that amount of time. But to be able to be flexible with how you work and your most productive time is, it's just incredibly important.
Yeah. Because I've always been a night owl as well. Like I just, mornings are not for me. Even if I'm up in the morning, like I'm not creative, I'm not thinking straight, I'm not, it doesn't matter how much coffee I drink, it's just not going to happen. So especially if I'm doing sort of creative content work, it tends to be later at night, because that's when I'm sort of like, oh yes, and we should do this and we should do that. Oh, this is a great idea.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm definitely more of a morning person. Before kids, I take a few hours after lunch, because after lunch, I'm just useless. And then I a bit more in the evening, a little bit since having my son, but I still prefer to work an hour or two in the evening and do the morning, and then in the afternoon, catch up on other stuff. So, okay, so what I wanted to bring you on to talk about was what we should be doing as freelancers on social media in 2020. There's so many choices available to us, you know. Do you go all for it on Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok now? And there's a brand new one that's a bit like Vine. They've just bought in as well. Byte, but with a Y.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like all these options. But what would you say are your top tips for freelancers on this area?
Well, I've got 4 things to do and 1 thing to stop doing. And it doesn't matter which network you're on or networks. So the first thing is engage. It doesn't matter where you are. You're not Kim Kardashian. You're not Coca-Cola. You can't post something and run and expect, a flood of comments. You're not them. You have to be engaged in your community. You have to be out there commenting on other people's posts. And you don't have to do it in a sales way. You're not commenting to get somebody to come back and comment on your post or to sell something to them. You're commenting because you want to be out there. You want to add value to the community. And also reply to all your comments, all your messages. And if people share your content, send them a message, say thank you, whatever. All of them. Because a lot of people seem to think that all they want is the comments, and they don't then engage those comments in more discussion. And that's what converts people is, chatting to a real person. The second thing is experiment. So social is changing. As you just mentioned, there are even more networks to try now. But you have to test what is working for you, for your business, for your audience. So that means what type of content you're putting out, how you're putting that content out, and which networks you're on. And because your audience is going to grow and change, you need to keep testing. So you need to be putting out different things and just see what works when, and make a note and tweak your content accordingly. And then that leads into the third thing, which is create great content. Because there's a lot of sort of people about going, oh, the algorithm is making it so difficult. And not to be rude about it, but it's not always the algorithm's fault. If you're putting out great content that your audience wants and is useful to them, then it'll do well. That's sort of how it works. So while you're experimenting and finding what they actually want, then create content that they want and put that out there. So yeah, the fourth thing that you need to do is track useful stats. So you need to know what actions on social media actually convert to your business goals. So if that's money in your bank or growing in a certain sector, your reputation or whatever, you need to know what your goals are and then track what actually takes you closer to them. So for some people, maybe you get somebody follows you and then they send you a DM and then they end up buying from you or hiring you. So tracking followers, new followers, and amounts of DMs, that's a great metric. For other people, that means nothing. So you need to know what is actually converting people for you. And the thing you need to stop doing is trying to do everything. Because you really don't need to be everywhere and doing everything all the time. You're one person. You can't be on several platforms, do them well, do your client work, do all your admin, and have a life. It's not feasible. So pick 1 or 2 platforms where you enjoy and where your clients are, and just do them really well, and create a schedule on them that works for you, that you can maintain, because that is what is going to make the difference. You need to show up consistently, but you don't have to show up everywhere every day.
Yeah. Where do you stand on, perhaps, do you feel like every network has to have different kinds of content, or can you go for similar kind of content but slightly tweaked for each one, or what's...
I suggest tweaking it slightly, purely because you like longer captions on Facebook arguably are okay, but they don't tend to do quite as well. Video is popular everywhere at the moment, but it's more about your audience on any network than the network itself, because you might have the same on Facebook and Instagram, but they might be expecting different things in different places depending on what they're there for on that network. Because if they're on Facebook to check in with friends and family, maybe they don't want to be bombarded with sales, bright, flashy, buy this, buy this. So yeah, it's just finding out what your audience wants and where they want it.
I think that's a really good point, because I've had a few people ask me recently about what can you post. I think LinkedIn's throwing people a lot because they're not sure what to post on there now, because tone is a little bit different than it was a few years ago. But then can they post the same things they post on Facebook to LinkedIn? And I think you're right. You've got to think about who you're marketing to, because, a 50-year-old businessman is going to have a very different market or way that they use social networks to, say, a 20-something mum. Yeah. So definitely thinking about how you're using it is really, really useful. But also thinking about, are they actually even going to use those social networks, and do you even need to be on them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just from a personal point of view, what social network do you most love using?
It feels weird saying it, but actually Instagram now. It used to be Twitter. Like for years, I was like, yes, Twitter. And then it just, I don't want to say it was the increase in character limit, but it kind of was that killed it for me. I was just like, oh, this is just not for me anymore, really. I use it more for sort of personal now, but I basically abandoned it for work. It doesn't convert for me either. My clients aren't there anyway, so it's a waste of time for me.
But funnily enough, whenever I go back on Twitter, because I was the same, love Twitter. I've been on there since 2008, I think, actually, more into 2009, and I absolutely loved it. But over the last few years, I think for me, it was when everybody started using it to just schedule all their blog posts promotion. That kind of slightly killed it for me. But if I go back on there, I really enjoy it. But I think they don't use it as somewhere to find new clients. That probably some of the stress of it, rather than I'm a big fan of Instagram now. And actually, for our listeners, I picked up, Olivia has these great mini kits, which are basically a month worth of content for you to use on social. So I picked up the coaching one, which you just released, and I think you've got a virtual assistant one coming up.
Yes.
So I found out about that through Instagram. I think you were doing some teasers or something like that. I've already talked about it in my membership as well, but I think the Instagram was where I really picked up on it, and I ended up purchasing it. And it's, if you're struggling to get started and you are a coach, definitely have a look. Or if you're a virtual assistant, have a look very shortly. But yeah, I found that kit really useful. But back to the point, I love stories on Instagram more than, I think, as a freelancer, to put your personality across. Stories is the easiest way to do that.
Yeah. Stories is really big, which is weird because I hate stories. Ever since Snapchat came out, I was like, I tried to get into it just as for a personal use, and I just hate it. It is not. I don't like the concept. I really don't like anything about it. But I do use it now because, well, I use it for work. I don't use it for personal. So yeah, I do use it now, but because, like you say, it is a great way, especially if you are your business, then you need to sell yourself, and if people get to know you, that's part of it.
But again, it all depends on who your market is. You said something businessman, probably not going to be on there, whereas
probably not. No,
a lot of freelancers are on there because they share their day, because they have that flexibility. So it works quite well for me. Well, thank you. That's some really lovely tips. Is there anything else you wanted to share, or any final tip you wanted to share?
No, I think that's everything, really. Yeah.
So basically, keep it simple, interact with people, be mindful of the social networks you're on. Yeah.
Be a human.
Yes, be a human. Yeah, I think it can be really hard at the moment, where there's a lot of glossy Instagram accounts about, and a kind of perfection, but there's a really nice kind of rebellion against that, and realism, and I think being human and showing some of your vulnerabilities, especially as a freelancer.
Yeah
Lovely. Thank you so much for jumping on with me. Oh, where can we find you?
Primarily on Facebook and Instagram. If you find Bushnell CS or type in Bushnell Community Solutions, you will find me. And on my website, which is bushnellcommunitysolutions.com.
Fabulous. And all of those in the show notes.
Thank you.
The doors to the Business Lounge will be open at the end of March. So if you're thinking of joining, you'll get to see all of Olivia's brilliant resources in there. But otherwise, definitely do go follow her. Even though she doesn't love Instagram stories, she is actually very good on Instagram stories. So she's got some great social media tips on there. So I would really recommend it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. To find out a little bit more about the freelance lifestyle, hop on over to freelancelifestyle.co.uk.